we live? Are we live now?
We're live now.
Our producer broke his foot, so he's not fully in the game right now.
Ooh.
Yeah, not fully in the game.
That means he can't chase us if we do something that like.
You know how he broke his foot?
He broke his foot carrying a 100-pound boy.
No,
that's the wrong story.
No, Gabe, no. He was fighting off bad guys who were trying to get in the studio, and he kicked him right in the head, the hard part of the head.
And he was a huge dude.
Huge. He was,
like 500 pounds.
Dude, like 100 pounds, dripping wet.
He was a big dude.
Barely.
He kicked him, and the dude fell out, hit the floor, but Neil broke his foot, but the guy busted his head.
You should see the other guy.
See how I did that?
The other guy.
Neil broke his foot, but the other guy busted his head. See what I did?
All right, that's enough. That's enough. All right, Pastor Toby, I'm the water boy, and all the way from Oklahoma, we got Chocolate Knox in the house. I'm not going to forget that.
What?
You got a problem?
Wait
till after the show.
You're born in Oklahoma.
Wait till after
it's
the
all
show.
Red River.
You just did that. You just did that.
Hey, guys, last chance this week to subscribe to our Fight, Laugh, Feast magazine. Man, look at that magazine. I love that.
Good.
We're excited about this magazine coming out every quarter. We're going to be producing a magazine for you, and it's going to be a mini book-like experience with various authors. Pastor Toby, maybe Chalk Knox eventually. I might be able to get him to write an article for us eventually on how to be lesser white or something like that. So make sure,
like Coke.
I got a few ideas. Let's start with Oklahoma.
Oh, I was going to say, well, maybe write an article on why you shouldn't be born in Oklahoma. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Okay. And as you guys know, have you guys been catching our daily news brief every day? Well, what's wrong with you if you aren't?
Yeah.
We have a lot of friends emailing us news articles throughout the week at news@crosspolitic.com. That's news@crosspolitic.com. And a lot of those articles end up on our daily news brief, and they also end up on our aggregator, deftwire.com, DEFT-wire.com.
Yeah.
And really excited about this website as we channel kind of a lot of what we're reading and now what our audience is reading over to deftwire.com, so you guys can kind of catch up on what's going on or what we think or what our audience thinks is kind of important articles around the world.
No, it's what we think.
Well, in our audience that sends us articles and everything.
Yeah, we all thinking together.
Okay.
It's a community.
Have you guys been following what's going on in New York?
What?
There's a lot going on. Besides Cuomo,
Cuomo
hiding data.
Did Cuomo get impeached yet?
Yes, he's in the process.
Apparently, it started to happen.
Well, and here's what's crazy. So I think they've created right now an 8-person board between Republicans and Democrats, a bipartisan board that are going to have 60 days to decide to go through the whole case and look through everything.
Oh, wow.
And then come back and then release what information they find or whether or not that Cuomo should be impeached. So here's what's great. You got Republicans and Democrats who are working together, and it's not looking good for Cuomo right now. It is not. And he released, this is crazy. So I got to talk about this just a little bit. So he released a statement, I believe, a couple days ago on why he was late, or he called it pause releasing the information to
basically why he was hiding the data.
Well, so he says the DOJ, he said 3 states got letters from the DOJ to release information about the nursing homes that were in their area. And so he said that he sent a letter to the DOH, basically his own
DOJ?
No, DOH, which is their registration, basically the
Department of Health.
The legislators there, and saying, hey, we got to put a pause on our releasing information to you to take care of the DOJ. Well, they say they never got that letter. They say that was never said, and that information was never released to them. But even if it was,
I never got that letter.
Even if it was, my thought was, wait a second, you're governor of New York. You have your own people, and you have people who voted for these representatives to get this information. Why would you put your local people who you serve at a disadvantage to give the DOJ information? Right. Why wouldn't you tell the DOJ? That doesn't make any sense at all.
And especially the kind of animosity there's been between Cuomo and Trump.
Exactly. Right.
I mean, supposedly.
Right.
At least give your own people the correct data.
Right. I mean, why would he suddenly be like, sorry, guys?
Yeah,
I gotta bend over here and make sure that the DOJ is all taken care of.
This would have been a great opportunity for Cuomo to say, once again, I'm concerned about New York. The DOJ wants me to put on pause what we're doing here. We're not going to do that. Yeah. I love New York. I love the people of New York.
New York first.
Here's my conclusion with the government in relationship to data.
Okay.
That they only care about data when they can manipulate the situation. Otherwise, they don't care about the data. So I actually covered this on the Daily News Brief today. There's this health panel in Canada, and one of the ladies on that was asking the panel questions, and it was I think it was this nation health panel, I think, in Canada.
Okay.
And she asked on Zoom, is over Zoom, and she asked, okay, what data did you guys use to determine to do quarantine in hotels versus quarantining at home?
Right.
Show me the data.
Yeah.
She asked that question, and like it was like crickets. And then she said, come on, what data did we use? Because supposedly estimates are saying that it's going to cost us about $250 million to do the quarantining in hotels,
Right.
versus being able to quarantine in your home.
Right.
And because the whole quarantine, you got to, if you travel over federal or international lines, you got to quarantine in a hotel. That's the the rule right now in Canada. And so no one
for like 2 weeks, 10 days or something.
The only answer she got was, well, we'll take that back to the committee.
Wait a second.
That was the only answer. They're spending $250 million without any data.
Right.
And so that's why the government, to me, is like they only use data to manipulate, and then they don't care about the data if it doesn't really work for them.
And there's no punishment.
And we've seen that a lot in this coronavirus shutdown.
I was sort of being tongue in cheek when I said I was being cynical, and I think it is.
But there's a reason for it.
Yeah. At the same time, I want to come back around the other side and say, okay, this is also what government education gets you.
Ouch.
Because here's the thing: for many decades now, we have completely rejected. I was talking to Knox about this recently. I'm reading a book right now that's this old classic book called "Ideas Have Consequences" by Richard Weaver, which is I'm a little ashamed to announce here on the show that I've never read before. I probably have lost several Facebook friends, and maybe I'm being canceled on Twitter right now.
I've never read it either.
Oh,
I'll admit it with you.
Yeah, but
I have read "Hideous Strength."
Oh,
and I'm going through it again. Actually,
have you read that?
You guys ever seen these right here, these tumblers? We got some really nice Fight Laugh Feast tumblers.
You need to stop reading all the other books that I mentioned to you, and you need to put that one at the top of the list.
Oh, man.
The top of the list.
But I'm trying not to be more white. So that's what I'm reading.
That Hideous Strength is like the least white book you'll ever read.
Okay.
I'm telling you.
There's a black character in it?
I don't know. It is coming from the Ivory Tower.
Lewis, this is like Lewis's honorary brother book.
I think now, even though I might have read the book, I'm not ever going to tell you guys if I have or not. I just like
he gets gangsta in it.
But the point I was going to make is that Weaver is tracing the sort of complete rejection of the whole idea of a unifying arche, a unifying transcendent truth, objective truth, anchoring truth. So, the idea of a university is one where you study different topics, but it's held together because everything coheres ultimately in Christ.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Una.
And we, in the process of rejecting that, have said, no, there's no unifying feature because of evolution, because there's no God, because we don't believe in Jesus. And what they've wanted to do, though, is sort of find power in specialization.
That's right.
And so they zoom in on these details, and they can rattle off data and details in highly specialized ways, but they have no way of knowing how it connects to anything else in the universe because they rejected it all.
Right.
And Weaver goes...
They rejected the unifier.
Yeah, there's nothing to unify.
Right.
Everything got here randomly. And Weaver goes so far as to say, you know what we call people who are obsessed about particular details and have no way of connecting it to the bigger picture? We call them psychopaths.
What's wrong with you people?
That's actually, it's a disorder.
You've never read the book?
I know, man.
How do you know all this from the book?
I'm
like, wow.
I'm reading it now.
Okay. But I'm like, oh my God, you've never read the book. That's such a good summary for not reading the book.
No,
this is a good summary.
This is actually in the introduction. He's just releasing
It's like the first 4 chapters.
Yeah.
But my point being is these people, the number of parallels between what Weaver is describing in the early 1960s.
Yep.
Okay. He died in, I think, 63, the same year C.S. Lewis died, who wrote That Hideous Strength, which you should.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Coincidence.
Real nice
back in the day, he's talking about what happens though with when you disconnect information from truth.
Man. Yep.
Then what you end up with, all you have though is this fragmented data.
Yep.
And all you have is manipulation.
That's right.
And so on the one hand, I think you're right. People just use data to get people to do what they think, they want them to do.
Right.
But that's all they've been trained to do.
And you mix that.
That's really good,
That's
Tobin.
all they think the world is. It's
Right.
just a matter of these data, this unconnected data, disconnected data.
Right.
And all you can do is sort of try to push and pull and yank and manipulate.
Well, and we even saw this in our city council. Like, they declared a state of emergency in our local town back in March, and then they renewed that state of emergency or that that emergency health order in June. And then in September and October, the citizens, like at the city council meetings, were like,
What qualifies
define?
as an emergency?
Define. Have you defined the state of emergency? And they're like, no.
Yeah.
Which
What data metrics are you using to say that this is emergency? They had no clue.
No data matrix.
6 months into this, they had no data, and now they have data all of a sudden.
But all you're doing though is you just have disconnected data.
That's right.
That's right.
That comes from not having a unifying
worldview
center. You have to have a center so that you can, data compared to what?
Yeah. Right.
You have to fit it into a unified whole.
Right.
And that's actually, and you take sin and you mix it in with that.
Oh, I know.
And then you get where Gabe is.
Get selfishness, get fear, get lust, get greed.
That has been. I mean, I know you're trying to get into the news.
No, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to get there.
News. Yeah, this is the news. Yeah. This is the world we live in.
Yeah. And this is why, for me, so lately ever since this whole thing started last year, end of February, March, I've just been in this kick of like, we're doing the same things we just got done doing 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago in the civil rights movement, the civil rights act, all that stuff where we're making people second-class citizens by emergency orders. Right. And so I'm looking at this, I'm like, how come we don't see it's because of how disconnected we are from all of this. And we can't synthesize this whole thing, all this information at one time.
And this is why there's a war against history.
That's right.
They don't want you to remember history. History is just random facts, and then people assemble the facts to tell whatever narrative they want. It's the same thing. History then becomes sort of a data mine.
Right.
And it's just sort of pull out the facts that fit my narrative, fit my worldview, rather than recognizing, no, the world is there. And you can't just make it into whatever you want it to be.
Right.
God is there. Christ is on the throne.
Yep.
Truth is there, whether you like it or not. Gravity exists.
Right.
And I think Pastor Wilson was the one who talked about this even before I got my hands on the book. But you take Christ out of the education system. Yeah. You take Christ out of our universities, which is the center of all knowledge, right? So if you then all of a sudden you can't synthesize anything anymore. Then it's fragmented theology. It's fragmented universities. It's not universities at all anymore, actually.
Right.
And so but if you look at what we've been doing, that's exactly why we can't think. So it's perfect. Like God has given us over.
Right.
When you remove Christ at the center, guess what you get turned over to?
Chaos.
Your false idols.
Christ or chaos.
You get what you want.
You get psychopaths.
That's exactly right.
You get these uber specialists, and all they know, they've dug deep on this particular thing, and they can tell you all these facts and numbers and data, but they can't connect it to reality. There's no unifying worldview.
And some of them aren't even facts or data anymore. That's how bad it's getting.
I know.
Anyway, Gabe, go ahead.
G.K. Chesterton in Orthodoxy said it's not the poet who goes crazy, it's the mathematician.
Yep.
It's the mathematician who goes crazy because he gets all these truths, all these facts, all these numbers, and he doesn't have a worldview to process that truth.
Right.
And that's what drives him crazy.
Right.
He said the poet, he's building a worldview. It might be wrong, but he has a way of kind of processing some of the philosophy around him.
Poetry only works in a world where you're bouncing, where you can compare something to something else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There is a reality there that you're actually comparing it to. I mean, that's what metaphor is.
Right.
But as soon as you destroy that objectivity, poetry goes down the drain into drivel.
Right.
But
it's the mathematician who really ends up going crazy in the asylum. So let's get back to New York. We got all the way here from New York.
Do we have to?
So there's this gym owner. So there's two gym owners that everyone knows of in the East Coast. One's in New Jersey. That's the more popular gym owner that's been dealing with all sorts of shutdowns in New Jersey.
Yeah.
But there's been this other gym owner in Buffalo who's been challenging the executive orders that Cuomo's been releasing. Well, Cuomo only has the authority to do an executive order for 30 days.
How long has it been?
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't have the authority to extend it. It's pretty clear in the New York Constitution that he can't. And the only way he can extend an executive order is through legislative session.
Oh, well, I kind of like that.
That's really smart in New York.
We have the same thing here in Idaho, but there's enough wiggle room in the Constitution where our governor apparently doesn't have the same restraints that Cuomo does. But Cuomo has been ignoring our conservative governor, right? So he's happy he's not in New York right now.
Well,
so Cuomo's been extending the executive order for 30 days again and again and again.
Okay.
And it's been illegal. And a judge in New York, the Supreme Court judge in New York, just ruled in favor of, why did I get that ding?
It's Cuomo.
Favor of the gym owner, not Cuomo. He ruled in favor. He ruled in favor of the gym owner. So the gym owner won.
So he won.
And this is actually really strategic for the whole state because in effect, that saying the order, the ruling for the Supreme Court ruling here in New York means that basically the lockdown's over. It's done.
Right.
That's what the ramification of that means.
And as New York, when did that ruling go down? I mean, did New York just
open up? Tuesday?
People can't,
just literally yesterday.
They can't. We just got done talking about this. They can't make the jump from what you just said to where
because you have to know Jesus.
That's right.
To be able to connect these dots.
So people will still be probably acting right now as if the executive order still applies, but it doesn't. That's what the ruling means.
This is okay. Can I take a jump real quick?
That's how it's hard to get. What is it? Hard to get. It's easier to get the slaves out of Egypt than it is to get Egypt out of the people's hearts and minds.
One of the things too is that this reminds me of the gospel in a lot of ways. This is my post meal working out. But when Jesus died, come on now. I know where you're going. When Jesus died, when Jesus died and rose from the dead, he took 12 men and sent them out to the world. Not the whole world knew at the time that Jesus has rose from the dead, but he took those men.
The world had already become new.
The whole world had changed at that moment.
That's right.
And so he sent those people out to let them know all authority in heaven and earth had been given to him.
Now you're free.
Now you're free. Right. Come learn about me. Come know my ways. Understand the new authority and new rule that you are under. And so this is the same thing that's happening here. And I'm hoping people in New York take the opportunity to say, well, if this is the case,
we're free. We're free.
Open up your business.
So the theme of this is this show is actually states' rights.
Okay.
There's a number of state right issues actually going on.
The theme of the show is that Jesus is king.
Amen.
I need
over states' rights. So net neutrality was a thing under the Obama administration. The Obama administration started net neutrality.
What is net neutrality?
Net neutrality is the principle that, I got it right here, is the principle that all traffic on the internet should be treated equally regardless of whether you're checking Facebook, posting pictures on Instagram, or streaming movies from Netflix or Amazon. It also means companies such as AT&T, which bought Time Warner, or Comcast, which owns NBC Universal, can't favor their own content over that of a competitor.
So it's communism.
Wait, so how? But how does that work?
So, for example, AT&T, we'll get there. AT&T owns Comcast. Comcast is a internet streaming provider. They stream content. Okay. Also, they have cable too. And Netflix also streams content. Well, what AT&T can do is create a bad experience or reduce the flow for Netflix while giving Comcast a better experience. And so all of a sudden they have a better, people are more going to go to Comcast over
I see.
Netflix.
Because it's their own.
So there's a question of whether or not internet providers can mess with the flow of how many bits per second or whatever.
Right. And so that's correct. Basically, can the internet providers can pick and choose who they give a better streaming experience to.
Can they put cones up on certain lanes and slow it down and bottleneck it,
they absolutely.
or open extra lanes for the
show?
So
let me finish this out real quick. So Obama started net neutrality under his administration
and said they could not do that.
Right. They couldn't discriminate.
Treat all of the information the same.
Right. And then Trump repealed that. And then now California decided to enact their own net neutrality laws, and the federal judge just upheld that California could do that.
Oh.
So the federal government was arguing that, hey, we're the ones who are allowed to regulate net neutrality or not because this infrastructure crosses all 50 states.
Oh, so this is like a commerce clause.
Yep, commerce clause situation, and the judge ruled against the federal government.
The commerce clause has done way more work than the founders ever, I think, imagined.
Here's what's amazing about this. This is one of the things that Trump was holding up for us in one point or another. Now, listen, I'm not a Trump fan at all, but I can see when he's working and when he's not. Mm-hmm. This is one of the things that Trump was trying to fight against. He had some sort of legislation he was pushing back.
So you have no problem with a internet company discriminating?
Well, here's
because that's what net neutrality was trying to deal with. That was the problem net neutrality was trying to deal with.
Let me go back with first principles. Whose company is it?
It's AT&T's.
AT&T owns the company.
Yep.
Can AT&T do with their company what they want to do with their company?
Yes. The question, though, is it, if this goes back to the utility question.
Sure.
Is it, do we think that that's okay for, like Avista runs a power around here?
Okay.
Can they give more or less power to different houses at what they want to do?
Right. So, and I would say,
all the White Houses.
I got this.
Yeah. Go ahead, Gabe.
I got this. The problem I agree. I think Avista should be able to serve your house better than my house. I'm fine with that. As long as, you remember the mayor in Texas who was getting complained at during the snowstorm?
Oh, yeah.
And the mayor on Facebook said, hey, stop complaining. Stop looking for government handouts. Go find your own electricity.
Yeah.
That's basically what he said.
Yeah.
And, okay, if we're going to play that game, yes, please.
Right.
I want to find.
Right.
I want to build my own electricity.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
The problem is we aren't in that scenario
Because we don't have a truly free market.
Right.
Exactly.
So as long as it's a quasi market, then we have to have more regulations to make sure that everybody's equal.
Right.
If the market's free, then I get a chance to go hunt for gold my own self.
So the question though is in the middle of the mess, which way do you lean?
Right.
And you're saying let's lean towards giving these companies more freedom.
Yes.
Hoping that we can break up the
embargo between the government and the utility companies.
Because if you let the government say this is what equality is, then you have the government ultimately regulating utilities.
Yeah. And what you end up getting though,
that's communism. That's why you say communism.
Yeah. So what I want is the ability to be able to compete with my own internet service provider. Mm-hmm. So if I don't like his services and what he's doing, I'm going to go and say, Elon Musk, you working on something I can throw some money at so I can have my own electricity? Oh, look, you already have something.
Yeah.
I can have my own internet service provider. Oh, you already got something.
Look, you did the satellite.
Yeah,
right.
Can we bump off your satellite?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so the market opens up. But when you start regulating like this, first of all, we have people who don't own the companies that say, we're going to tell your company what to do.
Right.
That doesn't end there.
Right.
That keeps going all the way down, which is why we're getting $15 minimum wage
That's
coming
exactly
in the
where
future.
I was going to go with this.
Yeah. And
minimum wage is net neutrality.
Right.
Wait.
That's what it is.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
See what I'm saying?
So the money is like the power.
Yeah.
And they're saying you have to send $15 down every lane.
Yep.
Exactly.
No matter what, no matter how much good work they're doing or better work they're doing, you got to do at least $15 for everybody.
So if we're for net neutrality, then we're for minimum wage.
And here's the deal. Netflix has far more people streaming on it than other smaller, and everybody's got to pay. So Netflix is getting away with murder in one sense because they're streaming millions of gigabytes through the internet.
And they're not paying more for it.
And they're not.
That's the difference.
So that's the other thing is you allow the companies to charge more if you use more.
Right, exactly.
Does net neutrality prohibit that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. It does.
So they don't get to regulate.
So that's why Trump, I think, repealed it because he's like, hey, we need the free market to be able to
the question
figure
is,
this out.
The product that I make, who gets to regulate it? Yeah. Who gets to put the price tag on it?
It should be you.
It should be me.
Well, no, it should be you in relationship to other people you're doing business with.
They get
not in relationship to the government and the other people.
They don't get to tell me what my prices is I put on my stuff. What they get to tell me is they can tell you how much
they're going to charge you.
They get to tell me
access to their.
We don't like your prices
and go somewhere else.
And go somewhere else. And I say, wait. What about $5?
Yeah.
Well, I'm in. Right. Now, they don't get to tell me how to make my prices.
And the thing that people don't realize, too, is what the free market does is even when people aren't doing good things, what it drives is then somebody else saying, well, then I'll do it better.
Right.
Or Netflix saying, how about we go into the internet service provider business?
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
Or maybe,
well, that's what Google did.
And
Google started installing their own fiber.
Right. And this is also what we've seen with Amazon kicking Parler off of their servers. Yep. It's a similar kind of thing, even though we think it's stupid and dumb.
Yep.
The fact is that now it's making people have to say, hey, like Gab, we're going to have our own servers.
Yep.
We're going to have our own systems, our own. And so when you actually let it be free, it actually drives enterprise.
Exactly. So
it drives creativity.
Just the internet here in our own building. So we wanted fiber.
To our building. We wanted fiber to our building.
Yeah. Now, the city was going to charge the internet service provider who's going to give us fiber, they were going to charge them all kinds of buku money.
Not only were they going to charge us more to bring fiber to our building because we had to go under the sidewalk.
They have to go under the ground to do so.
So
who owns
sidewalk?
It's his sidewalk.
No, I thought it was my sidewalk.
Here's the thing: is the city wouldn't even get back to us in a reasonable time for us to even be able to make a good decision.
That's the whole other thing. But
the
still,
city was like
another reason to keep the government out of it.
Exactly.
Even so, they still own the ground that was going to have the fiber underneath, and they wouldn't sell that part.
Actually, we own the ground.
That's right.
No, but here's. Let me add this. Okay, I had a
Mm-hmm.
detail that I thought was really important.
Stop being white, Gabe. Be less white. And so what happened is that they said, well, we'll rent you that line. Well, rent.
Yeah.
How much they could? So they said no. So what the internet service provider did was say, well, we'll shoot a wireless signal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, they created a technology,
high definition wireless signal
to our building that we can now shoot across. So the city lost out on everything, right? But the technology was created so that they didn't have to go through those parameters because of the free market. Right. And so, but the other thing with that is if the city is taking that money and doing what with it?
Well, here's the other detail in all this is we'd have to pay for this. We'd have to pay the city to run the high def fiber to our building.
Yep.
So we'd pay to have it installed, and then we'd rent back the fiber from the city.
That's right. That's right.
That's
right. That's right.
It's just nuts. So right now,
we'll mug you coming and we'll mug you going.
Yeah, that's right.
How about that?
Yeah.
So right now, the big Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus package is being debated.
Yeah,
and
relief bill.
Relief bill. And what may I remind you that it's still been less than a year, and we're fixing to pass another stimulus bill. This is going to be our third stimulus bill, and then now we're up to about $5 trillion in stimulus money within less than a year that we've created. But anyway, so right now the big hang-up in this $1.9 trillion deal is a debate over the $15 minimum wage.
Yeah,
even some of the Democrats.
Even Democrats are like, whoa.
Well, because Joe Manchin, he's a senator from West Virginia.
Manchin, I think.
Just let him say it how he wants to
Manchin.
say it.
Machin. Don't defile the name Machin.
What did I say yesterday?
In this case, it's a good
Jay
thing.
Gresham Machin.
My wife,
God bless
I
him.
said some word yesterday. My wife, that's not how you say it. And I'm like, I'm from Texas. It's
probably every day.
Yeah, that's how I say it. So anyway.
Yesterday?
Yeah, it was last night. I can't remember.
Every day.
Baby, let me know the word we were talking about. But anyways, so now they're debating about this $15 minimum wage that they're putting in this $1.9 trillion stimulus package or relief bill or whatever.
Yeah. Relief bill.
And again, on this, just think about back to the net neutrality point that we were making before. The government is saying, we are going to tell you what to do with your money.
Yeah, right.
And what this person is worth.
Right.
And it completely clogs up free enterprise and industry. Whereas if you have a business owner who has the freedom to pay somebody $5 or $7 or $15 or whatever he thinks is worth and make a deal with people, he can use his money. And business owners are in the best position. They don't always make the best decisions, but they're closest to the action. They're in the best position to know how to use the money that God's given them.
Yeah.
And then some people are willing to work for less.
When they don't make the best decisions, though, they know immediately.
Exactly. But the government doesn't.
The government doesn't.
The government just keeps printing the money.
But here's the thing with the $15 hour minimum wage, it's going to make it that much harder. We don't even have the freedom to do this, but I'd love to hire my 10-year-old to help us around the studio to clean. And pay her $5 an hour.
I know.
But now it's going to make it that much harder for us to hire the more
it's not.
vulnerable.
It just creates black markets.
Yeah, that's right.
But here's the
That's
deal.
right, exactly right.
One of the things too is I was talking about this. You got to get, if you don't have the daily news brief, get the daily news brief. There's so much great content. You wake up in the morning, you put it on, and you get a load of news in the morning, about 20 minutes or so. It's so helpful. But I was talking about this in the daily news brief. So you get a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Cost you $3-4. The price and the cost of making that cheeseburger is already built into everything.
Right.
All of a sudden, the government comes to you and says, you must pay the person who made that cheeseburger double or triple now than what you're paying him before. Here's the question. Did the value of the cheeseburger go up?
Nope.
Did we get a special meat now?
Nope.
We're talking about this in the Shannon household. All of a sudden, now the people are trying to figure out, how do I create dross? How do I make the burger all of a sudden be produced for less so that I can recoup the expenses, and I'm going to charge more on the customers?
You go from a quarter pounder to an eighth pounder.
So it ruins everything. And the biggest problem is that when I make a transaction with somebody, whether or not, regardless of what it is, hey, would you come work for me for $2? The government doesn't say, hey, how much? No. You can't pay him that.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't pay him 20. Yeah. All right. Why do they get to come in and tell you
and arbitrarily
tell you because they don't know what the product's worth? They don't know what they need to sell
commerce.
For. Exactly.
That's that commerce clause.
But here's the thing. This is why we're going to South Dakota. This is why we're going to love God,
net neutrality,
sing psalms, all this stuff.
All of it.
And defy tyrants in South Dakota, because Governor Kristi Noem just came out this week and said this whole stimulus thing,
I know,
all it's doing is rewarding bad states and bad decisions.
You better say that again.
That's all they're doing is rewarding bad states and bad decisions. She says you're bailing out states that shut down their economies.
Right.
It rewards them for making people stay in their homes and for taking away businesses' right to be open and take care of their customers' employees. That's all it does.
And we have seen this in the state of Idaho.
Yep.
Yeah.
Our so-called conservative governor, Brad Little, has told our legislature that wants to end all emergency orders. Said basically, if you end all the emergency orders, we won't get any more federal money.
What in the world is he thinking?
He came out and said
he did that. He did a commercial. He ran a commercial on that in Idaho.
So we're relatively free in Idaho. It's like, I don't know what stage it is. It's like a bare minimum emergency. Whatever. I don't know. It's like it doesn't limit.
Well,
much.
we've been in who gives a rat's ass stage for a long time here.
Well, no, I wish we had.
I've been in that stage personally for a while.
But some of our cities have not been so accommodating.
Ours.
Yeah. But the point being is that it really is. It is subsidizing incompetence.
That's right.
It is subsidizing people staying home, closing their business down. It's encouraging cities to be fearful and panicked and take away civil rights of their citizens.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
And so every time the stimulus bill comes, if they would just stop passing those bills, if there was no money at all, then you would have basically sort of a free market decision about how bad is the sickness, how bad is the threat.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know really, because right now we're just getting money sent to us, funneled into us, and checks get sent to us, and of course the weak and the poor are getting crushed.
Right. Absolutely.
But that's why states have this really horrible incentive to stay closed down or shut down or keep some kind of regulations in place, because then they can get more federal money. That's what they're doing.
So this is interesting because for it's Black History Month, and I've been spending a lot more time than I normally am reading a lot more Black history, reading a lot more history, period. I've been looking for a good book that just has American history without the gap
of Black.
Well, yeah, because there's so much American history that's happening, and Black history is happening at the same time, and that's a really close part of American history that we don't ever get.
Because y'all are Americans.
And so we've kind of separated Black history from American history. And I want a book that actually puts Black history and American history as American history inside of it, so I can have a complete narrative. Because when you start going through, you're like, well, this is happening, that's happening. A lot of those over there. This is happening. Frederick Douglass is right here. Yeah. But so you don't have a grasp of everything that's happening. But this is what I wanted to bring up. As I'm reading through history and as I'm looking through the current situations that we're in right now, for instance, this $1.9 trillion bill, I know what the standard should be. I know that the government should be at zero with telling a person that they should have what they should be paying another individual.
Right.
That's not anywhere possible happening right now.
Right.
That I'm not going to get, I'm going to have to be incremental in how I think about this. Right. I'm not going to get what I want. I'm not going to get the government to go from $15 an hour, which you're about to pass, that's going to pass, to zero, where they should be.
Yeah.
I don't know how we go from here to here in the process. It's such a convoluted mess. Yeah. It makes revolution look attractive.
Oh, yeah.
Because there is no way to go from here to here right now. So you can scream, you can cry. So then now it makes sense.
Tempted to burn it all down.
And so I kind of understand some of my abolitionist brothers in some of this, because it's like we know where we need to be at. If we let's say we go right now and say, Gabe, you know what? Why don't we tell the government to settle for $12? And it's not 15.
Yeah.
It's not zero, but we got them down a little lower. Right. And playing that game sometimes can make you feel like the only game we can play is just a little less than what they were going to give.
Right. Yeah.
Where do you start pulling back and start? So right now we have a smash mouth incremental when it comes to abortion. Yeah. Throw everything at it, try and slow this train down and end this thing. We want to win all the way in every battle.
Right.
Is there a smash mouth incrementalism when it comes to minimum wage and government overreach?
Yeah.
And so that's what I've been struggling with. How do you do this? Because we don't need revolution, which is like, you know what? Yeah. Burn this thing down.
Well, I think this goes back to where we started the whole show. Our ability, we have to regain an ability to see the big picture.
Yeah.
And not get fixated in one place or another. I think our temptation is to get fixated on the feds, get fixated on big government, get fixated on all these things. And what we have to do is we have to have a holistic worldview with Christ at the center, with his word governing it all, which means I think a lot of this starts back with, we need to start educating our kids.
Yeah.
We need to teach them to see Christ at the center and see everything as connected. Everything coheres in Christ. Yeah. His word is what helps us balance all of these things. Because I think what happens, though, is there is a kind of obsessiveness with particular details sometimes, even moral things.
Yeah, yeah.
Like minimum wage or abortion or, homosexuality or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can get fixated on that thing, and you can sort of, even though you're right.
Yeah. It doesn't have a full
Doug's
world.
dad, Jim Wilson, always liked to say there's a deeper right than being right. Yeah. And I think the point of that is not to be relativistic. It's just to say, connect that truth, connect that rightness, that moral issue to Christ and everything else. Right. Don't disconnect it, even though it says, that's a Ten Commandment thing. Right. Keep it connected, but you've got to have a holistic worldview with Christ at the center in order to start parsing all of this out. Yeah. And I think, and then fundamentally, I would say it has to start at home.
Absolutely.
It has to start with men saying, I'm going to take responsibility for my family. I'm going to be faithful to my wife. Yeah. I'm going to be faithful body, soul, and mind. I'm going to provide for my family, and I'm going to start building a legacy. I'm going to start building generations that are thinking in terms of we are free in Christ. Yep. That means we're free to provide for ourselves and for those around us. And then you build church communities, city communities, and counties that then begin to say, no, we're not going to do that. Right. We don't need the federal money. We don't need the state money. We don't, and we're going to, and then you build out counties, and then counties to regions, and regions to states, and you end up with states like South Dakota, maybe North Dakota, maybe other places like Florida.
Not North Dakota.
No, but you have Idaho though is going to be on the list soon.
Yes,
we're working on it.
Yeah.
But the point is that you start small, start where you are, pick up the piece of trash in front of you, put that away, begin to see things in a holistic way, and then just build out and build long term. Think in terms of your children and your grandchildren. When we come into town in Damasco, there's a sign on either side that says, we mask because we care or something like that. Mask,
liars,
whatever. And and my kids, every time we drive by, it says, Dad, when can we take that down?
Yeah.
And I tell them, one of you or one of your kids is going to take it down.
Right.
Yeah.
And, we're not going to be revolutionaries. We're going to go blow it up.
Yeah.
But one day, as we continue to be faithful to Jesus, we're going to take it down. And the same thing goes for the minimum wage. Same thing goes for, sodomite marriage. The same thing goes for abortion. We're going to take it down.
Yeah.
Because Jesus is Lord. He really is. And we're going to build that starting from the ground up.
And here's the thing is we have to start pushing back.
Yeah.
We're in a situation where if we don't start pushing back, well, the America as we know it is gone. The Constitution as we know it is gone. Our states' rights as we know it is gone.
But start pushing back by rejecting the incentives.
Yeah.
That's right.
Everywhere you can.
Reject the subsidies.
Everywhere you can.
Don't take it as much as you possibly can, and then wherever you are, build things that will last in Christ.
And this is why you got to come to South Dakota, because we're going to learn all this.
Love God. Sing psalms. Defy tyrants.
If you're single, get married. If you're married, have kids. If you have kids, go baptize them until Sunday. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. Gabe, who we have coming on Sunday?
Ooh, we got, I don't want to say it because I want to make sure he comes on.
we don't want to have that.
Yeah, we've had that happen before. We got a good guy coming on Sunday. Also, Thursday at my water break show, I got 3 pastors from Canada coming on.
Oh,
yeah, we're going to talk.
They have 3.
Yeah, I got 3.
Wow.
3.
With backbones?
Yes. More than that, we're working on it. It's good.
This is Cross Politics.